Welcome to Happily Ever After, the podcast that talks about the mysterious world of divorce and uncoupling and living happily ever after heartbreak, but it's kind of merged into other things as well. We talk about parenting and general midlife stuff. So I am your host, Hannah Harvey. I'm a writer and a parenting blogger at mumsdays.com. That's mumsdays.com. I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and leave a little review because basically this means more people can find our podcast. And I would also really, really love to hear from you. So please do contact me through Instagram at mumsdays. Just with your stories of life. It can be about divorce and heartbreak or anything else that you're currently going through or have overcome. I'd love to hear from you. You can also tell me any thoughts you've got on this episode or even ask me questions because sometimes I answer them on the podcast. You can also find all the details from this episode in the show notes. Hello and welcome to Happily Ever After with me, Hannah Harvey. And today I have an extra special treat for you because I'm chatting with Danielle Barbereau, who is a divorce coach. She's also the author of the book After the Split. And I first met Danielle about a year ago because she was recommended to me by my mediation solicitor. And she has basically supported me through some of the hardest bits of my divorce, particularly battling it out in court. So hello, Danielle.
Hello, I'm very pleased to be with you today, Hannah.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. I've been wanting to do this ever since I started doing the podcast, so I'm thrilled. But basically, my solicitor had said to me, you need to ask Danielle for a compatibility call. And within about a minute of you picking up the phone, I was like, I knew I had to work with you because
Oh,
you were instantly so reassuring. And I think during a particularly traumatic time for me, I felt I had some hope after speaking to you,
oh.
which is such an amazing skill to have. So I guess to get us started, like how have you ended up getting into divorce coaching? Because I didn't even know they existed until a year ago.
And I didn't know they existed before I did that. In fact, it didn't when I
Ah,
started 12 years ago. I was a coach, I was coaching people, and then one day somebody says to me, could you speak to my friend? Her husband has left her and we don't know how to help her. And I said, well, I can speak to her, but I have no idea if I can help.
okay.
And I always remember this moment because I went to this woman's house. I used to at the time. My diary was not full. And the woman opens the door and she was in her dressing gown. And I said, whoa, what are you doing? And she said she had no energy. She couldn't. So I said, shower, makeup, and we start working. And I
Nice.
started working. And from that moment, I knew without any doubt at all that that's what I wanted to do forevermore. And I've been doing this for over 12 years and nothing else.
Oh, that's giving me goosebumps. I love that. And did she get dressed and she got on her makeup?
Oh, yeah, I would not have worked otherwise.
You were like, no, this is what we
And
do.
also I remember she was actually a lawyer, not in family, and a head of firm. So it shows that, when you are going through something like that, it doesn't matter who you are, what profession you are, you get floored by divorce.
Yeah.
And it goes badly. And it's not a question of logic on how do you deal with it. It's much more complicated than that.
Yes. So why do you think divorce is so hard? Like, why does it floor us so much?
Well, you don't get married with the thought that it's going to end. And, this is your intimate relationship. Relationships are based on trust and respect. You don't ever think that you are going to lose that. But of course, there is a whole range of reaction. I mean, what I was thinking the other day that I've had over 1,100 clients working
Wow.
one. And what is fascinating is that although it's all about divorce, I've never heard the same story twice. And that to me is so fascinating, and people are. And it's incredible what people go through. But you have a range of things. Um, an easy divorce would be two middle-aged people who agree that they've reached the end of the road,
Mm-hmm.
and the children have left the nest, and they agree or to separate. To the other side, which is what you've mentioned, where it goes so badly that you have to go to court to try and resolve, and it's a judge who is going to resolve your divorce. So, of course, if it goes badly in particular, um, it's incredibly hard,
Mm.
especially if you are going to be blamed for it. Because let's say that your partner has made your life completely impossible. One day you realize that you can't go on like this, and you are the one who initiates the divorce. Well, not only do you have to go through this, but on top of that, you will be blamed. Easy for your partner to say, oh, well, you see, she started the divorce, she wanted the divorce, and to portray themselves as the victim there.
Yeah.
Not only you're going through the divorce, but on top of that, there's those very unfair emotions involved.
Mm. So you mentioned there that there's a range, like you've heard every story in the book, I should imagine. If you've,
Every, but I'm sure there will be more.
there'll be
My
more.
next new client will be a new story. Yes,
So
indeed.
every situation is unique, but are there common threads that your clients struggle with most? Like common things that, yes, everybody's got a different story, but I know people who have had amicable divorces, but it's still been hugely challenging.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I guess what I'm asking is, what do your clients struggle with most? The thing that you see most that you help people with?
A great deal, but the two top ones, I would say. Well, I'm going to give three top ones. um, Children. When children are involved, again,
Mm,
you don't have children thinking that you're not going to be with the other parent, and that the guilt of that. And then there are these, emotional expressions like, I don't want my children to have a broken home. But
yes.
what is the most broken? Two household where at least there is some calm and harmony, or one household which is extremely toxic. So, there's all these things at play. But children, sometimes people have young children and they think it's better to wait till later. Actually, no.
Mm,
Uh, Really, teenagers and young adults are extremely affected.
yeah.
And then there is money. Money, let's imagine that people have a great deal of money, or in fact, not that much, businesses together. Then it's incredibly complicated because you have one pot and suddenly this has to be split into two. So that's complicated.
Yeah.
And also, I have to mention fear, because a lot of my clients are, um, even if they don't really know it, in an abusive or coercive relationship. And by definition, when you are in one of those relationships, you don't know. You don't know that something is not normal and that it's no way of treating somebody. Because what is happening is the result of years of drip, 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 comments, criticism, put downs, all this sort of thing, which makes somebody lose their confidence and
Mm,
self-esteem. And also, let's say that you are in a violent relationship, you have to be concerned about, what happens the moment I leave and expose my partner for what he, more often than not, really is. So all this, not surprisingly, is extremely difficult. And I feel that my role is often, I used to think it is to help people survive. Of course it is, because I know what helps people. But really, more importantly, it is about helping clients get clarity. because they think one second, oh, I'm going to divorce. The next second, no, I'm not, because it's been nice today. And they drive themselves absolutely crazy,
Mm-hmm.
no longer knowing what to do, not trusting their judgment. And for me, that's the most important thing I can do for a client is first of all help them gain clarity. And then once this is done, I can support them through something which is very, very difficult.
Okay. So does that mean sometimes the clarity is actually we can stay together and we can make it work?
Yes, but rarely. I think, 1,100 clients or more. I could maybe think of three or four, maybe, who have decided and successfully stayed together. But I think once you start having these doubts, there's a reason for it, and it becomes very complicated.
Yes. Yeah, it's like you start. I always think it's a bit like the Truman Show. Like how do you know what's reality and what isn't, depending
Yeah.
on your circumstances? And once you start to get that glimpse of, I'm not sure this is actually right,
Yes, exactly.
it's hard to then go back from that.
Exactly, almost impossible. And neither should you. Often when this is happening, you realize that you've been in something pretty toxic and you should not be in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who spread toxicity around them. They are usually people, well, they become abusive. And it's nothing to do with the person who is at the receiving end of that, although they are being made to feel that it's their fault.
Mm.
It's actually the person who spreads that. And unfortunately, there are people like that. They are damaged and they damage other people. It's hard to recover from that. It's absolutely possible, but it's hard.
Yeah, but you need to be out of the trauma before you can start recovering.
Totally. You cannot do it when you're in the middle of it, so you need to leave. And also, then, if you see your partner or speak to your partner, you're likely to, even if you feel a little bit better, there's a bit of peace, a bit of harmony. The moment you speak to them or read a text or get a phone call, it's a step back and it takes time to recover from that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier and easier with time because one thing you need to do is realize what is happening and observe it rather than get swallowed in something which is toxic. These people thrive on, oxygen on the fire. They need the oxygen of an argument or provoking something. If you don't play the game and if you stand back, it becomes more difficult for them to do that, and you become stronger with time as well.
Mm. Is there such a thing as an easy divorce?
Well, when I hear amicable divorce, I feel really. But easy would be the couple have agreed. It's the end of the road. It's the end of a chapter. Let's close it, and then we can move on. And it happens, but it is quite rare because there's the rawness of the emotions involved in a divorce. Uh, it's very, very difficult. Let's imagine, for example, that there is another party that you sense that your husband is having an affair, except he doesn't admit it. That works both ways, by the way. Women do the same.
Mm.
It's really difficult because you feel humiliated. You ought you deserve to have the respect of a real explanation. But sometimes you're never going to get that. And if you're not, it's hard,
Mm.
very, very hard. And you feel that the other person is having your life. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's complicated.
And of
And then,
course, sorry.
no, not at all. I was going to say that happens a lot, for example, when women are menopausal as well. It's a stage in their life Well, this is really difficult to handle.
Mm, yes. I was about to say, and of course, you might get an explanation, but it might not be the truth.
Exactly. And you deserve the truth. Because more often than not, the explanation would actually be a blame for you.
Yeah.
It was something you didn't do, something you did.
Mm,
You would deserve to say, I'm really sorry, but I've fallen out of love with you. I've met somebody else. That would be at least respectful. Not easy to hear, but at least it's an explanation. Often it's going to be turned around. You're inadequate. You're this, you're that. It's nothing to do with what you do or don't do, but the person wants out. Once a person wants out, there's nothing which will keep them in the marriage. You don't persuade anybody to love you.
mm. Do you find that it can be the other way around? Like somebody's maybe cheated, but they regret it and then they want to keep the marriage going?
Yes, it happens, and it depends on how much you're going to reveal to the other partner. For example, if your partner does not know you've had an affair, but you're determined to keep the marriage going, then really my advice, although it goes against the grain, is keep your own counsel. Because you're introducing something which is really extremely complicated to process.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, this is rare. Once a person has an affair, the only time they regret it is when their partner says, "No way, I'm out." And then they realize what they stand to lose.
Yeah.
But it's very rare for somebody who's had an affair to suddenly think, "Oh, what was I doing?" It's rare. It happens, but it's rare.
Mm. I'm going to go off topic here, but I would love your thoughts on this because as I'm entering the dating world, so this is, post long-term monogamous relationship. I'm coming up to 40. What I'm finding a lot is people having either open marriages or are polyamorous.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer this. I'm not a divorce coach. And actually, I spend a great deal of time saying to my clients not to get involved in anything until they are really ready. In other words, until they've processed the whole thing. Why? Because when you date, you open yourself to rejection. That's part of the rule.
Yeah.
And after being extremely hurt, you're not able to handle more rejection. So you need to have gone back on your feet before you can. Now, it is true that on websites, there's loads of damaged people or people who are barely out of a relationship. Their marriage will end one day, the following morning, they are putting a profile. So, but what you describe is even worse. And I have to admit, I'm very innocent in that and didn't realize that was the case. How difficult to navigate that. Nevertheless, it's a numbers game, isn't it? And you may meet so many people who are not the right people, and suddenly there is a genuine one, and you can gel. We all know people who have met somebody online and it has been successful. But it's not only working through, it's also timing. You have to be ready, they have to be ready. The others are
Yes.
time wasters.
Yeah. And for me, I'm starting because I'm kind of using it as a way to explore what I actually want going forward. Um, and yeah, so I'm chatting to some people who are polyamorous, mainly to see how it makes me feel. And go, is
Mm.
that something that I'd be interested in? No, I don't think it is.
Oh.
you know?
You deserve better. You deserve exclusivity from somebody. But I agree with you. When you start dating, I hate the word journey. I can't stand that expression, but actually, it's a process, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You find out by doing that what you're prepared to take, what you prepare, or what you're not wanting at all. And my advice would always be to almost make a list of what is really important to you. And I would say, actually, not sharing with anybody else would be very, very
Top of the
important.
list, no sharing.
No
Sharing
sharing.
is not caring in this instance.
Not in this circumstance at all.
Ah,
But I think once and I think what you're describing is totally normal. It's a process. But eventually you have to think, no, this is important to me. And I want somebody. I don't want to be going out with a bald man. I mean, please, look at the person for who they are. But once you know, you're much more likely to find that person. It's an
yes.
interesting thing, isn't it? It's almost like when you're clear, it's easier to find someone.
Yeah. But it's that getting clarity thing.
Yeah,
Again, that's so important. And I
yes.
still don't know if I know what I want.
Hmm.
And I think
And that's
having
normal.
children, yeah,
Yeah,
having children's made it more complex because I've had
yeah,
relationships in the past where, they've met the partner
yeah.
and it wasn't, I don't know, it's just not quite what I wanted. And it was very
No,
quickly back to being very domestic and kind of more work
yeah,
than if it's just me and my kids.
absolutely.
But then the other extreme is it's me and my kids during the week, and then I'm this single person at the weekend.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, I love that, but it does make the transition between the two quite extreme.
But it is exactly that. It is a transition. You know, it has not been a very long time since you left your marriage, and it takes time. And I would say just enjoy trying to meet somebody, go for a drink, go for a coffee, enjoy that. Don't think, oh, this is going to be my life partner. This is unlikely to be the case. Just enjoy and see whether you want to see them again. Now, you've spoken about children, and I have to say, young children make dating complicated for a woman in particular,
Yeah.
especially if she has, the caring responsibilities for the children. And it's very rare that children will welcome a partner, very rarely, of course, with time, but that is a difficult dynamics, and everybody's trying their best, but it's difficult. And I was in the same situation. I got divorced probably 30 years ago now. It's ridiculous to think about that. Boy, did it, my children made it so difficult, to the point that I had a few relationships and then really had to wait till they were away, university and the rest of it, because
Nancy's
it was.
only 3. I'll be waiting forever.
Nevertheless, what you can do is have a relationship where you don't introduce your children
Yes.
straight away, and when you're sure, then you can.
Yeah.
That, I think, that would be. But yeah, the children, however much we love them, in this circumstance, they are a complication, and for a partner, it's not that easy to
No,
find.
it's not.
It's not.
It's
And
not.
they may have children themselves whom they don't see and feel guilty about that. It's complicated.
Hmm.
But as long as you understand that it's complicated, but it's not unsurmountable.
Yeah. Lovely. So, I was very excited to hear that you've got a new online course that you're launching
Yes,
very
yes.
soon.
I am launching it very soon. Thank you for asking, Hannah. I just felt, I've been doing this for so long and with so many clients, that I thought I have something to say. I can't just say it one to one with a client. There's a limit to how many people I can see.
Uh huh.
And I thought I could just put something down which would help people, because although, as we discussed, divorce is unique, there are things which help people to recover.
Yes.
And I could really clearly put that uh, tidily in 6 modules, in 6 headings of chapter. The first one being to understand what is happening, and then to start taking control. There's a whole process that actually I follow with clients to help them recover.
Yeah.
And this is what the online course is about. And I've tried to put a lot in it. And there's also a worksheets, which will become a workbook later. But so people, because for me, um, the process has to be worked through. You cannot say, well, I'll buy this course and in 2 weeks' time I'll feel okay. Absolutely no way.
No.
Because you need to work through things. And to me, this reflection is really, really important and is what makes you grow. So the course is both, I explain things through videos, but after that, I give you some things to think about for your own circumstances, because sadly, not everybody is my client, if they purchase a course. But I
Yeah.
think that's quite good. And the feedback I got, I sent it to 5 or 6 people who tried it, is overwhelmingly positive. In fact, they're totally positive. So I think it's going to be useful.
I definitely think so. What I think struck me about the whole idea of it is, like you said, everybody's got a unique story. And sometimes you can get stuck in your story. Whereas
Yes.
when you're doing something like this, you know you're moving towards something positive at the end.
Mm,
You can follow your guidelines, make it relevant for your situation, but you're
mm.
not staying stuck in your
Yes.
story.
Yes, and that's a really important aspect of the course or of any recovery. You cannot stay there because often that involves very negative emotions, which actually only affect you. Like for
Yeah.
feelings of revenge or jealousy. Yes, at first, I get that, but not if that defines you afterwards. So, what I try to do, I think, is try to give some perspective. You have to gain perspective on the relationship, and that doesn't happen overnight. But as you say, it's a normal human reaction to get stuck in bad habits or not to quite see that there are alternatives.
Yeah. So I feel like this kind of pulls you out of that and gives
Yes,
you the hope to know, because it's called Emerge and Recover
yes.
from a painful breakup. So it's like, and the other thing I think is perfect is that you're running it. So it starts on the 21st of November. It's a live run through, isn't it? You're going to do Q&As each week.
Indeed, every Monday evening at 6 o'clock to answer
Perfect.
questions.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you can do the module, get your questions, and then go online and speak to you about them.
Exactly right.
Perfect.
Exactly right. Making sure that you are anonymous. I wouldn't want people to show their face or their name.
Yeah.
You're a little bit careful to protect yourself. But
Yeah.
this is where, the story is unique. Therefore, there could be a question which is unique, but actually is going to help other people.
Yes.
And what has struck me when I was working with clients, it's always, they find it incredibly reassuring to know that they're not on their own. They are not freaks.
Yeah.
It's just something happens to them. But it's not about them. It's normal to be confused, all these things. But this is where it's important to take some perspective.
And to take some control.
Essential. It
Mm-hmm.
starts with that. And when you're going through a divorce, a breakup you have not chosen, it's easy to think that you have no control at all of the situation, and you look at the situation in terms of loss. Whereas I work with clients in trying to make them regain some control. Sometimes it's very small steps, but it's amazing the difference it makes. And often this is also about setting boundaries. There are things
Mm.
that are acceptable and things which are not. I had a client a few months ago. Although the husband had left her for another woman, he would come back every morning to have his shower in the house. And
Ugh.
that, yeah, yeah. So, um, it was a way of checking her, but also of asserting a control that he should not have. And I said to the client, no, no, no. He has lost the right to treat this house as his home. He will have the other place. Thank you. And there are many examples of this during the year, many. And the moment you start asserting, it's about self-esteem, it's about standing for yourself. It makes a huge difference. And it gets easier to do it all the time as you're doing it.
Yeah. Like little baby steps, but each one is empowering.
Exactly right. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Now, you progress and then there's a setback. That's normal too.
Of course.
Nobody progresses in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've done 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back. Yes, that's normal too, except that it will be less and less affecting, less and less profound, and less often. And one morning you'll get up and think, I don't want him back. That's quite a step, isn't it?
Yeah.
By somebody. And it's all these things, but recovery is never a straight line. And it's normal to have setbacks.
Yes. And I think if people have your course, there's that kind of reassurance that if you've got a setback, you can step back into the bit of the course that like
Ab-
relates to that thing.
Absolutely.
And
And I
I
think
think
that,
I would have found that really reassuring because obviously I had you at the end of a phone call. But that's not necessarily accessible to everybody because A, time, B, money, all those kind of things. Whereas this means you are in their pocket whenever they need you, which I
yes.
think is just so lovely because it was
Yes.
such a huge support for me.
Well, thank you, Anna. But that's exactly the spirit of the course, really, is
Yeah.
to be there. And yeah, you can dip back. So that it is a useful tool, but it's also real support because people feel so lonely
Yeah.
when they are through this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. You feel like you're the only person on the planet going through it. So, yeah.
People do you know that I have probably a client down your street,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Client
and
confidentiality.
it's a shame, isn't it? So the idea also of these weekly calls is to realize that there are other people in the same boat.
Yeah. That's lovely. The other thing that I was going to say that I love about it is that you're running it over the Christmas period. Because
Yeah,
obviously, Christmas, like, properly sucks when, at the beginning of the divorce process, you're not together and you're navigating the joyous period and everyone's having loads of fun and blah. And you just feel like you want to Bridget Jones it out.
yeah. And the first Christmas, especially, and actually, then you get taken in by the imagery of Christmas. The ads on TV, everybody happy in the family. Obviously that there's very
It's not
little
true.
connection with the reality. But I do remember my first Christmas on my own, and it's difficult when you don't have the children. I was not prepared enough. And my advice really to clients would be think about your day. What is that going to look like? And make it special for you in a different way. Start new tradition, but
Yeah.
don't get caught. Everything is closed. Everybody seems to be having a good time except you. Well, this is the time to do something special for you.
Mm-hmm.
You really think about it. I think that would be my advice for the first year, especially.
Yeah. And get your course so that they can speak to you in between
Yes,
Christmas and New
I,
Year.
I will not speak on Christmas Day.
Not Christmas Day. Aren't you? You're going to
I
do
will
a
be on Boxing
special.
Day.
Yeah, you'll do a special one in between Christmas and New
I will
Year.
do a special one. And of course, people can email me anytime. And then I can respond to that. Often the questions people have are questions that often other people will have. But I will
Yes.
respond to emails on a one-to-one, definitely. It's important.
Oh, well, that's amazing. That is really amazing to have that kind of access. Oh, that's been really, really interesting. I was going to finish off on your top tips for people starting out on their divorce, and I've used the word journey.
Yeah, yeah. The divorce journey.
The divorce process
Yes.
to a great future. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, several pieces, because again, everything is unique. It's difficult to say general things, but what comes really strongly for me is, first of all, be informed. Know where you stand legally, for example, with the house, the children,
Yes.
because sometimes fear can come out of, somebody saying, you'll be destitute, you won't see the kids.
Mhm.
That's ridiculous. So your lawyer would be able to explain that. So be informed. Um, I think also don't feel that you have to give explanation to anybody. People almost want gossip sometimes. You're not a subject of gossip, and deflect that if you don't want to give information. For example, if some people say, "Oh, I heard that you and James are getting divorced," deflect that with a very simple sentence and just say, "Yes, we're going through it." And don't get drawn into having to give explanations to anybody except the ones who are in your support system.
Yes.
Who is your support system? Who is always there for you? Who makes you feel better when you speak to them rather than drain? These people are really, really important. Be sure about that. And frankly, it will pass. It's a terrible time. It hurts so much, but this will pass and you will get better. Everybody, every single one of my clients has got better. Nobody gets stuck there. And often, if I bump into people or they email me, several years down the line, they said, the divorce, that was the best thing which could possibly happen to me. Because when you do that, you really have to look in yourself, your core values, what matters.
Yeah.
And this actually makes you grow into a better person, and then you move on positively. I can assure you, literally no exception to that, it will pass.
Oh, thank you so much, Danielle. See, wasn't
That's
that a lovely treat, everyone?
such a pleasure.
Oh, honestly, and huge good luck with the course. I know it's going to be a
Thank
resounding
you.
success. But yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine, I assure you.
All right, thank you so much for listening and have a great week. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Happily Ever After with me, Hannah Harvey. I would be very grateful if you wouldn't mind leaving a review or subscribing, because this helps more people find this podcast. And of course, if you've got a friend who you think might enjoy this episode, please do recommend it to them as well. For anything else, your thoughts on the episode or any questions, please do get in touch with me through Instagram at mumsdays, or you can email me hannah@mumsdays.com. And I genuinely love hearing from you, so please do get in touch. Bye.